It starts quietly, not with an explosion, but with a sigh. You're standing in your own life, surrounded by everything you thought you wanted, and none of it feels real anymore. The job, the house, the titles, they're still there, but something is missing. And the silence underneath it all is deafening. You don't crash into midlife like a cliché. You drift into it. Until one day you're staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m. and a question punches a hole in your chest. Is this it? And what's worse than asking that question is realizing you don't know the answer. There's a reason that question keeps showing up in the quiet moments. There's a reason you haven't been able to shake this low-grade unease that sticks to everything. Statistically, life satisfaction dips the lowest between ages 41 and 48. Across cultures, across income levels, across lifestyles. This isn't failure, it's a season. It's a storm that most men are never warned about, and because of that, they think they're the only ones in it. But you're not alone. You're not broken. You're not weak. You've just hit something real, a hidden wall in the structure of life. This isn't just a bad month or a stressful year. It's a reordering, a call to evolve. Psychologists have a name for it. A confrontation with mortality, a forced review of everything you've built, where you're no longer driven by ambition, but by meaning. Carl Jung wrote, "We cannot live the afternoon of life according to the program of life's morning." That's what this is. The old script stopped working. The roles you once played, provider, achiever, performer, don't light you up anymore. And underneath it all is a quiet grief, not just for what's happened, but for what never did. The career path you didn't follow, the passions you left behind, the things you said yes to, even when your soul whispered no. Dante knew this feeling. In the opening lines of the Divine Comedy, he wrote, "Midway upon the journey of our life, I found myself in a dark forest, for the straightforward path had been lost." That line was written over 700 years ago, and yet it could have been written this morning. By you, by me, by any man who wakes up mid-journey and realizes he doesn't know where he's going anymore. This is the dark forest, where the map stops, where the noise fades, where the questions begin. But here's what most people never learn. This forest isn't a trap. It's a gate. It's not where your story ends. It's where it finally begins. Because the truth is, if you feel lost right now, it means you're no longer willing to live unconsciously. You're no longer content with drifting. You've woken up. And that's not a collapse. That's a calling. So don't rush out of this moment. Don't numb it. Don't run from it. Look around. Listen. Let the silence speak. Because in that silence, something new is forming. You. Not the version of you that followed the rules. The version that's finally ready to question them. And when the world tells you that midlife is a crisis, what they're really describing is this moment. The sacred, terrifying, beautiful unraveling of everything that was never really yours to begin with. Welcome to the dark forest. Now, let's see what's on the other side. There's a moment, just before everything changes, when most men talk themselves out of it. They feel the shift. They hear the whisper. They see the cracks in the life they've built, but they tighten their grip instead of loosening it. They convince themselves they're fine. They numb the rest. And that's where the story ends for a lot of people. But not for you, because something's different this time. You don't want to escape. You want to understand. That's what opens the hidden gate. It's not in some guru's plan. It's not in a book. It's not in a podcast. It's in that single, unfiltered moment where you ask yourself, what if I'm meant for more than this? And you don't laugh it off. You pause. You listen. And for the first time, you don't silence the voice inside that's been trying to get your attention for years. For Joseph Maroon, that voice came in the form of collapse, a renowned neurosurgeon, accomplished, respected, and completely empty. His father died suddenly. His marriage ended. His purpose vanished. And with it went his energy, his direction, his identity. He could have kept pretending, could have worn the mask until it suffocated him, but instead he ran. 1 mile turned into 5, 5 into triathlons, triathlons into Ironmans. And today, at over 80, he's not only still running, he's thriving, working, living, leading, reinvented. Brad Padre had a different journey, a safe one. Orthodontist, quiet life, comfortable, but buried beneath that comfort was an artist who never stopped dreaming. In his 40s, he walked away, not to chase attention, but to reclaim joy. He built a surreal, hilarious online world, and millions followed. Not because he was perfect, but because he was finally real. These stories aren't rare because they're impossible. They're rare because most people never open the gate. They stay in the job that pays the bills but starves the soul. They stay in relationships that keep them numb. They stay in identities that were built to please others, not to honor themselves. And the longer they wait, the heavier it gets, until the very idea of change feels like betrayal. But staying stuck isn't loyalty. It's self-abandonment. The gate is always there, but it only reveals itself to the man who stops running. It doesn't look like an opportunity. It looks like a breakdown. It doesn't feel like clarity. It feels like chaos. It doesn't sound like motivation. It sounds like discomfort. But that's the test. That's the threshold. Because what lies beyond it isn't guaranteed. And that's what makes it real. Most people want transformation to come with certainty. But here's the truth. It only comes with courage. You don't need to know the entire plan. You just need to take the first step differently than you did yesterday. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to stop pretending that you do. There is a life on the other side of this version of you. A richer one. A more aligned one. One that doesn't rely on numbing to feel normal. But that life doesn't come to those who wait. It comes to those who walk through the gate not knowing what they'll find, but knowing that staying put will cost them everything that matters. So if you're here and you feel the pull, push. It opens. And what's waiting on the other side isn't just a new chapter. It's a whole new language for who you really are. You won't notice the moment it starts, not right away. At first, it's just a sense, faint but persistent. Like a room you've walked into 1,000 times suddenly feels unfamiliar. Like your own reflection is looking at you instead of through you. You pause, you stare, and then the question shows up. Not what happened to me, but something harder. Who even am I without the roles I've been playing? Not the job title, not the bank balance, not the resume or the social performance review, but you, just you. And the longer you stare, the more you realize You've been editing yourself for so long, you don't even remember the original draft. You said yes to things you didn't want. You endured what you never questioned. You built a life that looked stable. But somewhere along the way, it stopped feeling like it belonged to you. And that hurts. Not because you failed, but because you succeeded at building something you don't actually want anymore. That kind of realization doesn't hit you like lightning. It leaks in through the cracks, during silent drives, during fake laughs, during moments when your achievements echo a little too loud and still feel a little too empty. This isn't a meltdown. This isn't weakness. This is the moment the mask slips. And what you see underneath might scare you. Not because it's broken, but because it's unfamiliar. But here's the truth most men never hear. That unfamiliar man staring back at you, that's not your enemy. That's the version of you that's been waiting for the noise to die down, waiting for the old rules to crumble, waiting for you to stop pretending. He's not asking for perfection. He's asking for honesty. Honesty about what you've outgrown. Honesty about what no longer lights you up. Honesty about the version of yourself that's been surviving, but not living. Because now, you know too much to go back. Too much about compromise. Too much about loneliness. Too much about the price of fitting in. And that's why this moment matters. Because this isn't just a reflection, this is a reckoning. Henry Rollins once wrote, "I believe that one defines oneself by reinvention, to cut yourself out of stone." And that's what this is. Not a breakdown, a sculpture in progress. You don't chisel a new life by waiting. You start by striking the first piece away, one false identity at a time, one obligation you never chose, one truth you've been avoiding. Reinvention isn't flashy. It's not a brand overhaul or a vision board or a plane ticket to somewhere else. It's showing up every day and refusing to lie to yourself again. It's getting clear on what matters and burning the rest. It's not fixing who you are. It's remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. You don't need to find yourself. You need to face yourself. And that mirror, that man, he's not a stranger. He's the one who's finally ready to begin. This is the part they don't write about. Not in the success books, not in the social media captions, not in the movies with the perfect montage. The part where everything that once made sense starts to fall apart and no one claps. You feel the burn before you see the flames. Old routines lose their color. Your career starts to feel like a costume. The people you used to feel close to seem miles away. And the worst part? You're not even sure why. It doesn't look like a fire yet. But it is, the kind that doesn't ask for permission. The kind that doesn't spare your favorite parts. The kind that demands something sacred in return. Your old self. Because that's what real transformation costs. Not effort, not hustle, but surrender. And that's terrifying. Because no one tells you that reinvention starts with loss. Loss of certainty. Loss of status. Loss of stories you've been telling yourself for so long they feel like facts. But here's what they forget to say. That fire, it's not your punishment. It's your forge. It's the heat that turns raw metal into a blade. It's the destruction that clears space for the truth. It's the ending that unlocks a beginning. There's a reason the phoenix has survived across cultures, across centuries. Because deep down we know It's not the flame we should fear. It's stagnation. And right now, your life might be trying to evolve you the only way it knows how. By burning away what no longer serves you. Joseph Campbell called it the abyss, the belly of the whale, the place in every hero's journey where he's stripped of what he thought he was so he can finally become who he truly is. And the truth is, most men never make it out of that place, not because they can't, but because they try to skip it. They want the breakthrough without the breakdown. They want the new life without leaving the old one. They want the reward without the reckoning. But the phoenix doesn't rise by avoiding the fire. It rises because of it. And so will you. You're not here to run. You're here to remember that the man you're becoming isn't born from comfort. He's born from courage. You will lose things in this process, certainties, roles, stories, but you will gain something that makes it all worth it. Clarity, alignment, power, peace. Because the version of you that's coming, the one that's being shaped right now in this exact season, he doesn't need applause. He needs truth. So let it burn. Let the old goals turn to ash. Let the outdated dreams fall away. Let the fire strip away what was never truly you. Because what comes next, that's not a comeback. That's a rebirth. And the world won't recognize you at first, but you will. Because for the first time, you'll see yourself clearly, not as who you were, not as who you're supposed to be, but as who you were always meant to become. After the fire, there's quiet, no spotlight, no parade, just you, standing in the smoke of everything that once defined you, asking a new kind of question. What now? Most people think reinvention begins with answers, but it doesn't. It begins with honesty. Not the kind you post online, the kind that stings, the kind that shows you where you've been betraying yourself by staying silent, staying stuck, staying small. The kind that forces you to stop running long enough to hear what your life has been trying to say all along. This isn't the time for hype. It's the time for inventory, not of your money or your titles or your regrets, but of your energy. What gives you life? What quietly steals it? What moments make time disappear? And which ones make you dread the next hour? Write them down, not for clarity, but for proof, because the patterns are there. They always have been. And once you see them on the page, you can't unsee them. That's where the blueprint starts, not with a grand vision, but with a shift in awareness, with the choice to stop living by default and start living by design. There's a reason the Japanese have a word for this. Ikigai. It means a reason for being. But it's more than philosophy. It's a practical framework. A place where 4 questions meet. What do you love? What are you good at? What does the world need? And what can you get paid for? That intersection, that's not a fantasy. That's direction. And even if you don't have every answer yet, knowing the questions changes everything. Because the moment you name what matters, you start to notice what doesn't. And from that awareness, you act, not dramatically, but deliberately. One habit, one shift, one commitment at a time. You don't need to quit your job tomorrow. You need to stop using it as an excuse to ignore your calling. You don't need to move to a cabin in the woods. You need 10 minutes of silence to hear yourself think. You don't need a master plan. You need a first step. Start with something small. Something so simple you can't talk yourself out of it. Wake up 30 minutes earlier and write. Take a walk without your phone. Reach out to someone who makes you feel more like yourself. Say no to one thing that doesn't align with your future. Say yes to one thing that does. These aren't random moves. These are anchors. They tell your nervous system, we are changing. We are building something new. James Clear calls it atomic habits, 1% shifts that compound into a completely different life. Not because of willpower, but because you changed the identity behind the behavior. You stopped being a man reacting to life. You became the man directing it. And if the structure of your life feels off, sketch it. Literally, draw a square, label each side, work, health, relationships, purpose. Which side is overextended? Which one is shrinking? Your life is a structure. If it leans too far in one direction, it collapses. This isn't about balance as a buzzword. It's about structural integrity. So assess it, adjust it, rebuild it. Because the fire already did half the work for you. It cleared the surface. Now you lay the foundation. And this time, it's not about doing more. It's about doing what matters. This time, it's not about proving anything. It's about living aligned. The blueprint isn't out there waiting for you. It's in the questions you've avoided. It's in the truths you're now brave enough to write down. It's in the moments you stop pretending and start listening. It's in the ashes, waiting for you to build. They told you life was a mountain, one climb, one peak, one destination. You work hard, reach the top, and then, what? You look around and wonder why the view doesn't feel like victory. It's not that the summit was a lie. It's that it was never meant to be the end. There's another mountain beyond it. But this one's different. The first mountain is built on performance, on proving, on becoming what the world claps for. The second mountain is built on purpose, on depth, on becoming who you are when the applause stops. And here's the truth no one tells you. The journey between those two mountains is a descent, not a failure, a fall. It's confusing because you thought you were close to the finish line, and suddenly you're back in the valley, back where things are unclear, back where you're asking yourself questions you thought you'd already answered. But this time, something's changed. You're not the same man who climbed the first peak. You're not chasing validation anymore. You're chasing something deeper. The second mountain doesn't care about your status. It cares about your soul. It's not fueled by ambition. It's fueled by alignment. It doesn't ask how much you've achieved. It asks how much you've given. And the climb? It's quieter. It's slower. There's no cheering section, no highlight reel. But there's something better. There's peace. There's the steady, grounded satisfaction that you're no longer performing for approval. You're participating in something real. Maybe it's mentoring someone who reminds you of your younger self. Maybe it's building something that won't go viral, but will change a life. Maybe it's reconnecting with your family in a way that your old schedule never allowed. Maybe it's finally giving time to the part of you that creates, not for money, but for meaning. This is the mountain of contribution, of wisdom, of legacy. And you don't have to climb it all today. You just have to commit to it. Because what waits at the top isn't fame or fortune, it's freedom. Freedom from the version of you that always had to be strong, always had to be perfect, always had to be busy. Up here, there's space to breathe. There's room to feel. And for the first time in a long time, there's nothing to prove. The summit doesn't shout, it whispers, and when you reach it, you won't feel bigger than the world. You'll feel connected to it, not because you conquered it, but because you finally found your place in it. And when you look back down at the valley, the dark forest, the fire, the ashes, the rebuild, you won't feel shame. You'll feel something better. Pride, because you made it through. You changed without becoming someone else. You rose without running. You built without pretending. And that second summit, it's not an escape. It's a return to who you really are, to what you're really here for. So don't wait. Don't stand at the edge hoping someone will pull you up. Pick up your pack, plant your flag, and climb. The second mountain is calling.